just take a moment to smell the roses. I know that's cliche, but it is really profound if you just take a moment to think about it. Take a
Yeah.
moment and smell the roses. Look at how far you come.
So welcome to this week's episode of Leadership Soundbites with Michelle and Tanzi. And I so appreciate you jumping on. There's been a theme recently that's been surfacing, and I was sharing with Tanzi before I hit record. It was around this space that we don't necessarily give ourselves credit for progress. Like if we're doing improvement work for ourselves, we're not talking about, I'm going to improve turnaround time of an OR. That's not what I'm talking about. It's us that we're tasked with, improvement work on our leadership development journey. And a lot of times with clients, they're not acknowledging awareness or anything else going on. And so we're going to kick off with this quote, and I think he said it well. The only person you should try and be better than is the person you were yesterday, and that was Buddha. So, Tanzi, what's on your mind about this? Because I know you and I share similar experiences around basically not giving ourselves credit for better.
Yes, I can tell you that this has been my plight. I am I forget about how far I've come. I think we get so focused on what our goals are and we just laser focus, right? Right? We're like, I can see it, smell it, taste it, all the senses, right? And then we get frustrated with ourselves when we don't get there in the time that we set. But we forget about how much we've grown, how much we've learned, how much we've evolved along the way. Uh it's just it doesn't even register. I think if we could just stop and take a moment to look at ourselves and examine, we would be so impressed with ourselves. You know what? We have to approve ourselves and stop running someone else's race. Those are
Oh,
just a
that's
few
funny.
things.
There's a lot in there, and what triggered for my brain are some conversations you and I have had in the past, right? And
Yes.
it's about that awareness piece. And sometimes it comes if you're not aware of if you've been focused on your leadership journey and developing yourself, and you're not comparing yourself to yourself, you're just going forward, like you said, right? But yet then you find yourself in a setting with people that you would assume that are at the same development level as you are, right? Because
Right.
you're thinking this is normal because you're bringing you with you the entire time. You haven't left you, and you're not looking back.
Right.
But I've heard comments from you when you've been in the room with other people. You're like, I didn't realize how much I had developed until I was around them and realized, and because I'm thinking to myself, why aren't you doing that like this, right? Thinking that's air quote normal.
Right. Yes, I've had a few of those moments in the room with other people and realizing how far along I come. I feel like I have a realization every day. Things just click and I'm just like, wow, amazing. And then I think about all of the people in my life that have come into my life during different seasons that have left major impacts
Mhm.
in the way that I think about things, the way that I move forward. It's just really incredible, and I'm always surprised when I'm in the room with someone and I think, "Hey, this is the way that we're going to do this, or this is the way that this should be done," and it's always interesting to see that their thinking is just different. And
Mhm.
in that moment, it's just like profound for me. And
Yeah.
I remember getting on the phone calling you and telling you about this and you reminding me that we're not all created the same. And remember to run your own race. Run
Mhm.
your own race. Don't compare yourself to others.
Mhm. Um, it's funny when I think about that kind of stuff because there are people along the way, and you and I have had conversations before, people along the way that have impacted us that we may not have thought at the time how significant it was, or might not have shared it with them, or they may not realize it. And we do that same thing with other people, is that it's important to, I think, recognize that when we're looking back to go, what were those pivotal times for me? Because what happens now is what you're talking about when you're in the room and doing stuff with practice, things become easier. right? It's not this like when you first, like when I started driving. Do you know how to drive stick shift car or just automatic?
I do. I drive both.
Okay. So do you remember when you first learned how to drive a stick shift car?
Oh my goodness.
Yes. Yes. So, your brain is like, okay, clutch, gas, whatever. And my goodness, if you had gone to San Francisco at all during that time, where for what crazy reason they put stop signs at the top of hills,
I
right?
know. Crazy.
And in your stick shift thinking, okay, don't park, don't pull up close to me, don't pull up close because I'm not good enough yet. I'm going to roll backwards before I go forward, which is our leadership journey a lot of times, right?
Yes.
But you think about it now, with if you got in to drive a stick shift car, are you having to think about every single thing that you do?
No, no, I'm not because I gotten better. But the magic is recognizing that you've gotten better
Yeah,
and
yeah,
not to stand so focused on, oh my gosh, I'm learning this new, stick shift drive because my mother told me that if I get this down, she's gonna buy me an automatic. Like, don't focus on that goal, right? But just focus on the fact that you're not rolling backwards, or maybe that you're not having to focus on every single step. Just if you could recognize just that small difference, boy, I think it would be almost life-changing for us.
yeah. Well, and I think part of it too is we need to celebrate because where my brain went was Margie Hagney. We taught A3 thinking, and you were in the class for one of those 2-day A3 thinking classes. And she talked about something that she learned from one of the physicians about heuristics, right? It's the wiring of the brain. And so once we get that down, where it becomes automatic, that's the wiring of the brain, then we no longer have to exhaust or expend resources on thinking about all the little steps that go into it, right?
Right.
It happens to us when we're even driving home from work. So you have a commute from where your main office is to home. And there's a lot of times that we as humans get in the car drive, we may be pulling up in the driveway to get home and think, I really don't remember the step by step or the things along the way of driving because somewhere in our brains we just went into automatic mode.
Right.
It happens with leadership development and behaviors that we practice after a long period of time. And so it is paying attention to those moments when you're like, I just went through that and it wasn't difficult. It wasn't challenging. I didn't have to calm myself down. I didn't have to manage my stories better. It just automatically came in and I reckon, well, it's the story. Here's what's going on. Let me flip it. So what do you do, Tanzi? How do you intentionally, or if you do you intentionally or have a practice around like comparing where you were before and giving yourself credit?
You know, I would, honestly, I wish I could say I had a practice around it. I'm still learning that. I'm still an unfinished product. But I can tell you when I have those moments of realization, I'm very purposeful about stopping and giving myself credit. Give myself credit. Recognize that I've worked hard to get where I am. I think it's just so important. I think sometimes we really forget, like we are always out seeking approval for the next, mile that we've ran.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we really have to focus on not doing that. We have
Yeah.
we have to really start approving ourselves and giving ourselves credit for the hard work that we've put in. It's so
Yeah.
important.
Um, what came to mind for me when you're talking is I'm taking this course through Mind Valley called Manifestation Mastery. And in it is a lot of, attitude, mindset, all that work. And one of the things that she said that stood out for me that I've recently incorporated into coaching sessions with clients, and it's around, I shared it with you earlier, around noticing those minor little changes is I think it's important for us to be really clear on what progress or improvement looks like. Because if we think it's I'm no longer doing this other thing that I don't want to be doing, then we narrow our focus on what we're able to see for improvement.
Right.
But what she called out, one of the main instructors, is to look and see and look back, what's different? And in a category of different can be, I'm doing things differently, right? People are reacting differently, or I'm aware of things now that I was not aware of before. And all those things, and I'm sure there's others if you can add to it, but those are the things that when you talk about giving yourself credit and celebrating the improvement we've done, those are in the improvement bucket of things that we're doing. Awareness is progress.
Yes, it is. Awareness can be huge.
Yes.
There's so many people that I've seen still kind of developing that skill. I mean, I feel like I'm still developing that skill. I'm definitely better than I was before, but I'm still developing it. And I just it's when you don't have awareness, it's like having blinders on
Hmm.
and you just kind of coast through, kind of doing things here and there and not really thinking about um kind of what the journey how do I'm thinking about what the journey really looked like, or where you come from, how you
Yeah.
got here. There's just no awareness.
So how do you, and I'm just curious, how do you remind yourself? Is there something that you do? Is there, I mean, I know what I've coached people on with different things, because we show up, it shows up physically typically with some things like stories is what my brain went to. But what do you do? How do you remind yourself or point out that it's important to be aware of what's different? Do you have a practice in that, or is it just an ad hoc once in a while I stumble into it and go, oh my gosh, that's different?
You know, I think maybe figuring out what I'm grateful for.
Okay.
What am I grateful for today? And then that kind of forces me to search and do an
Mm,
inventory. And then I have the opportunity to recognize, wow, look at me when I think about myself, even last week.
mm-hmm,
Look at what I've learned um, just since last week. I'm grateful for that.
mm-hmm.
So many, you know, other circumstances or things that could have prevented me from learning, X, Y, and Z. And I'm grateful for that. And I think that gratitude is kind of the way that I find time, if you will, to do a self inventory and
Yeah.
I get into being mindful about my current place where I am in my life.
I love that because when you're talking, it is, if we were really specific about things, what am I grateful for just around me as a leader or my role or, the organization, whatever it may be, because it will set your brain on actually looking for those things to be grateful for, especially in a situation. And I think timing matters too, right? So this is where the scenario in my head is that you're busy beating yourself up because you didn't do things air quote perfectly, right?
Right,
I set the intention, I wanted to do this and I didn't do that. I think in those moments, a great thing to pull yourself out of this beating up loop that we may be in because we didn't hit what we thought we were going to hit out of the gate
right.
is to say in this moment right now, what am I grateful for? What am I grateful for about the experience that I just went through? That in my head, originally my brain is going, you didn't do what you said you were going to do the way you said you were going to do it and the timing that you said you were going to do it. Blah, 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 right?
Right,
What am I grateful for about this moment?
right.
And it will force us to take a look at that scenario and go, you know what? I was better than the previous time.
Yeah,
Because the previous time I actually expressed how I felt in the moment. This time I shut down, but I recognized I wasn't in the right space, right?
yes,
But I think that kind of thing would be kind of cool because if you apply it in that moment, then it flips you to automatically start looking for the upside and what's better. Yeah.
definitely. I mean, not only does it flips you to thinking about, what's better, but it actually shifts the energy also. That's what I've
Hmm.
I've learned. It really shifts my energy and even my perspective. And
Hmm.
sometimes I need that to make sure that I'm on the right path for the day or
Hmm.
for the evening or for an event that I'm attending. So yeah, gratitude is definitely a major tool in the toolbox.
Yeah, I like it. And I think it's one of those things, but that I have a recommended practice that in between meetings, that leaders reground, right? Reground themselves, recenter, whatever that may be. And if you've especially come out of a situation that you're kind of hard on yourself about something or some situation, I think that's a cool practice. If you're not grounding, maybe you're grounding, and that gratitude is part of that grounding. To your point, it does reset us because it's not possible for us to be angry, upset, whatever else it may be, and be grateful at the same time.
Right.
It's just not possible.
Right. One will win. And if you're
Yeah.
intentional about being grateful or demonstrating gratitude, taking moments to uh, be grateful for something, yeah, the negativity of being down on ourselves and that
Yeah.
whole energy, that space, you step right out of that into something else.
Yeah.
And yep.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for your time. Like I said, this has been a topic that's come up a lot recently with clients that I've coached. And I love the place that we landed with this stuff too. So thank you for that. So Tanzi, from your perspective, what are one or two things you want people to walk away with on this topic?
One or two things. Just take a moment to smell the roses. I know that's cliche, but it is really profound if you just take a moment to think about it. Take a
Yeah.
moment and smell the roses. Look at how far you come.
Hmm. Um, it's interesting. What came to me is one of the standard work templates or standard work in the lean management system is leader standard work. And part of leader standard work is setting, the intention for yourself, right? What are the things you need to be involved in? How are you going to show up? What's going on? And then part of it is to check against what you intended to do on how well you did and be thinking about what got in the way, right? If you set the intention for yourself to do these things. So that's where my brain went. I'm not saying that everyone has to go get leader standard work and update a template and do all that stuff. But I think to your point, Tanzi, if we carve out time at the end of the day or the middle of the day is better for you, whatever it is, that you can look back and do an inventory, mental. It doesn't have to be written down if you're at, react to the fact that I don't want that much structure.
Yeah.
But just spending 2 to 3 minutes, if that, to say, you know what, this is what I set out to do today. How did I do against what I set out to do? And then celebrate that incremental improvement on how it was, especially if you compare how did I do yesterday against this stuff. Instead of going, well, I didn't do it all. Okay, no, you didn't, but you did more than what you did the day before, or you did it, it was easier for you, right? It wasn't as difficult. But I think that kind of a level set or a reflection rather at the end of the day can be really powerful and get yourself into this great state as you're ending your day instead of this negative place that you're like, I didn't do everything I was supposed to do. Okay, so what goes on the list for tomorrow?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you for the time and I appreciate it. So this is Leadership Soundbites with Tanzi and Michele. Please like, share, subscribe. Until next time. And if you want to be a guest or have a topic, let us know. Thanks.